to me, CAP Head Start was a life changer. It was a game changer, not only for me, but for my kids too. Because we wouldn't be where we are now if it wasn't for them. I wouldn't be where I'm at now if it wasn't for their encouragement and support. So I grew up in Maryville, Missouri, with my mom and my dad. I remember whenever I was younger, they were still together for quite a long time. And then at one point in time, my dad had become incarcerated.
Do you see people's?
Hey, bub. So this was your first day of Head Start. Do you remember any of those friends? You had a year without Shay because Shay moved on to kindergarten.
That looks like Shay right there.
I grew up in a house with, a lot of addictions and alcoholism, so that's something that I feel like is kind of a big part of my childhood. And my mom, I would have to say, is probably one of the most compassionate people I've ever met in my life, even though that both of them have had their struggles. I didn't know that. So you're a Head Start kid?
Yeah.
Not crazy to think that it's been around that long.
I loved it, and I didn't want to leave.
I did not know that you went today.
Yeah, I did. I know. I figured you didn't. That's why I thought I'd bring it up. There's so many things you don't know about me.
My brother, he was hit by a drunk driver whenever he was 10 years old. He was on his bike. At that time, my parents had separated and we just had lived with our mom. We kind of grew up in a family that had, not everything in poverty. My grandma and grandpa had supported us a lot, and if it wasn't for them and their support, I'm not sure where we would have been at. But my brother Brian was 10 and he got hit by a drunk driver, and he was paralyzed after that. He couldn't walk or talk or eat. That was a huge, tragic kind of a crisis in our life after that. He was in the hospital for a really long time, and then he finally got to come home to my brothers and my mom and I. And then it wasn't too long after that the state had come and taken us away from our mom. At that point in time, after they took us, then we had to go live with our dad. So we lived with him for quite a few years. And then whenever Brian was 16, so that would have put me around at 12, he had passed away. It's crazy to think it's been 24 years.
No, right. Do you remember pulling his hair and knocking him off the chair because she was mad? Because you only weighed like 35 pounds. He was tiny.
Yeah, but...
and he cried and cried. She hurt me. He might have been hungry, but he was a good kid.
Do you remember the day that happened?
What?
Or did you kind of block it out?
You can't block that out, Lucy.
I know. You remember I was in the kitchen with you?
No, I don't. I didn't know that. I really did not know that.
You really didn't know that?
No, I just went crazy.
Over it?
I just went crazy.
Do you remember whenever Dustin dressed up as a girl and walked in front of him after his accident?
Yes.
Anything
to get him to yeah, anything. I know, right? They didn't think he knew what was going on.
No, he knew.
No, I proved it. I proved it a million times over.
Yes, you did.
I went to get in bed one night. It was dark, and he was down the hall, and that cat that the teacher gave him had messed everywhere in the bed. And so I climbed in bed, and I was like, gosh knows what I was saying. And I could hear him laughing all the way down the hall. I was like, no, this cat's going. He just laughed and laughed and laughed. The first time he laughed, yeah, I didn't expect that. I guess I expected him to talk or something.
I sure do miss him sometimes.
I miss him a lot.
Shortly after that, where we was living out with my dad, he kind of took off and left and put us at home with our grandparents, my grandma Shirley. So we stayed with her for quite a while, and then shortly after that, I was about 13 and I went to go and live with my mom again. At that point in time, there was just a lot of issues and still some struggles with addictions, and I was pretty much on my own from then on, kind of bouncing from place to place. And then eventually, whenever I was 15, I was really kind of staying with some friends just here and there. And I ended up dropping out of school. From there, I actually ran into my husband. We moved in and got a place together at that point. And then it wasn't long after that that I got pregnant at 16. I was scared. You know, here I am, 16, dropped out of school, didn't really know what to do or how to make it work, had no idea, didn't really have a plan. A few months after, and it was kind of getting closer to the time that we was getting ready to have Shay, I just remember thinking that I just want to do better for my kids. I love my parents very much. I think that any kid does. But I also understand that, you know, the way that we was raised and the things that had happened while we was growing up really wasn't what was best for us in a lot of ways. I think that she did the best that she could, but I just knew that there was just something hit me and it's just like, you know, I just want so much better for my kids. You know, I don't want them to grow up in the same life that I had. From there, I was 16 and pregnant, and then I had him whenever I was 17. I got a job, and I had done that, and then some things had happened, and we ended up moving to Kansas, and I still had a job here and there, but I had found out that I was pregnant again. So at that point, I was really concerned because here I have one child that, you know, I'm kind of barely making it. How in the world am I ever going to care for another child? I know that loving them, you know, is easy to do. It's more like the financial and the upbringing. Whenever I had found out that I was pregnant with Connor, I just really felt the need to go and get my education because I did drop out, and I knew that an education would be something that'd be crucial to doing anything or finding any kind of employment, especially after being in a situation where you don't have a whole lot of money and finances are so tight. So I utilized my time and was able to obtain my high school diploma. Whenever we moved to St. Joe, he worked, but since we couldn't afford childcare and now I had 2 toddlers, it was easiest for me just to stay home. So there was some reason that we had to go to the doctors. So I was sitting in the doctor's office and there was this girl and she had her little kid there. And I don't know for sure how the conversation started, but she's just like, have you ever heard of Head Start? And I kind of looked at her, I was like, no. She's like, well, my son goes to Head Start and so there's actually a preschool classroom that they go to. And I remember thinking that, I'm like, well, he's only 2. So I was kind of leery about it. So she just gave me some more information. And so from there, I remember going down to the main office at Cap St. Joe and filling out an application so Shay could get enrolled with home base. So with home base services, his teacher was Nancy, and she would come in and she would kind of talk with me about best parenting practices and kind of model and interact with Shay. And it was kind of neat for me to sit back and watch how she interacted with him, just because it kind of gave me ideas on how to interact. And I would see things that she would do and I would kind of look up to her for that. But she was also there to support me as well. And I think that that was not really what I was expecting whenever I walked into that kind of a service. I was kind of thinking, oh, you're just gonna come here and, kind of play with the child and, help him learn a few things. But really, it was so much more than that. It was him and I both. So he was home base with Nancy, and she had told me that there was a slot available at Early Head Start. And it was center-based. I was a little bit leery on it just because he's my baby and I had never really given him for someone else to take care of or watch. So that was a little nerve-wracking at first. And this is where a lot of things kind of changed for me. I really wasn't expecting such a wraparound from the whole organization. So I just remember that Shay really enjoyed Head Start. He loved it. He was so excited to go every day. But one of the things that transitioned with me was the teacher interaction that she had with me as the parent. So I had mentioned to her that I was interested in Head Start and maybe becoming an employee. And that meant going to college, and whenever you hadn't really had a thought to a full-blown career before, college seemed really scary at the time. It was kind of a little overwhelming, but she encouraged me and empowered me, and she kind of walked me through the steps and made me feel confident in doing it. And she even offered me the books, so that way I didn't have to pay for my first set of books, because she knew that I would need them in this course. It's stressful at times. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's easy. It was actually very difficult to try to manage that and kind of have to miss out on some of the things, and the time with the kids was hard. But I also know and I see the value in furthering my career and my education, so that way I can support them better financially and educationally. But also it's such a growth for them to see, and I think that it's important for them to see, a little bit of my struggles, but my successes, because those are the things that they're going to remember whenever they look back. After that, I got hired on as an assistant teacher with Head Start. But I kind of had it in me, and I kind of had this feeling that I really wanted to do the family support specialist, so that way I could hopefully impact a family and touch the whole family like I had been touched. CAP Head Start was a life changer. It was a game changer, not only for me, but for my kids too. Because we wouldn't be where we are now if it wasn't for them. I wouldn't be where I'm at now if it wasn't for their encouragement and support. I wouldn't be able to financially support them like we do now. They wouldn't be able to go and play the sports that they do and have the relationships and the social skills that they do if it wasn't for Head Start. So I think that it's a pretty amazing service to have, and it's so unique because there's nowhere else like it. The teachers are always learning best practice. They're always getting better. They're always setting goals, professional goals for themselves. But it trickles down to who you are, and it helps you grow as a person. I mean, really, if I could go back and say something to myself at 16, I think that at 16, I never seen myself where I'm at now. Just because, I mean, you're just 16 and pregnant, and you don't really have a plan. And thank goodness for the support of, the kids' dad, because I don't know where I would have been without having at least one support system. But I wish I knew now, or I wish I knew then what I know now about child development, honestly and truly. I feel like if I would have known some things, I definitely would have changed things different as being a 16-year-old parent and not really having any support system or anyone to really look up to for parenting advice, because I didn't have that. So it was kind of figure it out on your own and just know that I want to do something different. So if I could go back and tell myself anything, I think it would just be whispers in my ear as to, how to help my kids grow educationally, and just fill myself in on how to be a better mom. How to be a better person. Really, in essence, Head Start and Community Action Partnership as a whole is just a life changer. And I'm so grateful for them, because I would not be who I am today without them, professionally and personally.